Um, I believe we are now recording. Awesome. So, welcome everyone. We've got a grand total. We're almost at 50 people here, so that's pretty cool. Thank you all for coming out to this virtual GBM. I know, I don't know about you guys, but this storm's pretty tame. I'm just glad not to have school, but we did lose a GBM. But the show must go on. Um, can I see if any of you guys can raise your hand in the chat? I want to test to make sure permissions are configured properly. Anyone? Okay, awesome. So with that being the case, I see that works. With a show of hands, I want to know how many people are going to the hackathons coming up, because this GBM is going to be all about hackathons. So please raise your hand in the Zoom call if you're going to Shell Hacks tomorrow or Night Hacks later on next weekend. Okay, all right. Keep them up. Keep them up. I want to see. We're about at half the room right now. A little bit more. Awesome. Okay, so that's perfect then. This meeting, the GBM for today, is really just going to be all about hackathons. I know when I first came here as a freshman last year, I was very, very confused and like almost enamored by the concept of a hackathon. I had no idea what was going on. The former president said, and I quote, "It's so bad, I love it." So I have no idea what you guys know about hackathons, especially if you're a first-time hacker. Everyone put your hands down. I want to ask another question. It's going to be another important one. Put up your hand if this is going to be your first hackathon season, meaning Shell or Night Hacks will be your first hackathon. Okay, yeah, there you go. So I'm sure that you guys are probably just as confused as I was. So we're just going to go ahead and kind of go over stuff more in detail, because I know we did mention them very, very briefly in our first GBM. And you've heard, this and that and whatever, but I just wanted to break down for the entirety of this meeting. It's going to be our Hackathon 101 meeting. So first things first, I'm going to go over our agenda tonight. Before we get into anything hackathon related, I am going to give you guys just some club updates. But then after that, we're going to go over what is a hackathon really? Why do you even want to go to a hackathon? Which you probably don't need persuading, since all of the hands have already been up. I'm assuming most of you are either confirmed or waitlisted, but just to kind of talk about why a hackathon could benefit you. And then we're going to go over what to expect and different ways that you can succeed. And then we'll have sort of like an open questioning at the end so that everyone can kind of get all those hanging questions answered before the end of the meeting. All right. So first things first, I want to talk about a change in our executive board. 2 weeks ago, we did have a re-election. And so I would like to reintroduce myself as Dylan, the president of Night Hacks, rather than the secretary of Night Hacks. I know we had a lot of people at our GBM, our kickoff GBM a month ago. We also have our new secretary, Warren, who unfortunately isn't here to make it in this call. He had a family emergency, but we've been doing some cool stuff behind the scenes. So I just wanted to make sure that we put that out there and let everyone know about the change in our board. Other than that, we are now going to talk about what a hackathon is. And a running joke in this club when asked is from our former vice president, Mark, a hackathon is an experience just like any other experience, which is probably one of the most vague responses to that question you can get. But, it is a very loaded and complex question. So we're going to kind of dive into it a little bit more than just this, right? So on paper, a hackathon is a 24 to 36-hour event where teams are challenged to ideate and create a project within the time allotted. Keep in mind that 24 to 36 hours isn't the duration of the event. That is the duration of the hacking window. So, of course, there's a lot of variability going on with this event, and we're going to kind of break all of that down, because this is kind of a very, very, very simple definition. We kind of wanted to break it down a little bit more, because I'm sure this doesn't answer all of the questions you have, right? So alongside the actual like software development part of the hackathon, there's a lot more to it that a lot of people tend to either be surprised by or overlook when you're there. So we do encourage you to interact with all of these different things at both Shell Hacks and Night Hacks. The first one is obviously networking opportunities. All of our sponsor companies for us, Shell, and hackathons all over the United States and the world, they come out for career fairs to network with students, with hackers, because at the end of the day, you all just being there says a lot about your character. At least in terms of employability and your passion as a software developer or whatever related major you're in. So they like to come out and meet you all in a sort of a career fair style. So throughout the weekend, there will be a career fair. At least I can say that confidently on behalf of Shell and us. There are also challenges sort of like posted by these sponsors that are also really, really valuable. There, for example, last year at Shell Hacks, Microsoft had a few challenges. They had like an AI challenge, mixed reality challenge, and stuff like that is really, really cool because you can earn even more prizes, but also kind of get in the scopes of a big company that you're kind of go after. So it's really, really valuable there too. There's also workshops happening all the time, multiple at the same time. You're going to have to choose which workshop you want to go to. That's how many there are. And a lot of them are very, very valuable if you're kind of new to hacking or new to software development. But also, a lot of them are also kind of more chill. Yeah, there's also socials happening all the time. Socials are a really, really good way to sort of unwind from hacking because at the end of the day, you will not be programming for all 36 of those hours. You will need sleep and you will need a break, right? So these socials are kind of effective ways to take that break with other people and do fun, random things, right? Of course, there's also free food and free merch. Who could say no to that? Our merch this year is really, really cool. I'm really excited to unveil it. I just picked up half of it today with Parrot. That was a lot of fun. Looking forward to distributing that and seeing what everyone thinks. And then, yeah, food is food, right? So, again, I don't need to convince you, but just sort of the things you kind of want to think about. Why even bother going to a hackathon? Well, there's a long list, right? I tried boiling it down to something simple here, and this is what we got. So, the first one that's really, really important is learning new tools, right? Um, we can all say confidently that class doesn't prepare us for everything. And I can kind of say that a lot of the things that we should know that class doesn't teach us, we can at least begin getting exposed to at a hackathon, right? So it's really, really good to go to these workshops, learn these new tools, these frameworks and languages that are going to kind of expand your tool set and help you make real, sustainable, fulfilled projects. Another thing, as mentioned with the career fair, internships, right? We all want internships. We all want job offers. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. That's why you're going to school, right? So there's a lot of good opportunities to get those inside connections with these companies at hackathons. That's really, 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 really great. Also, the hacker community is awesome. Just going to hackathons, if you go to like Shell and Night Hacks, you probably will see a lot of overlapping faces. It's sort of like a sub community within the student computer science community, and it's a lot of fun meeting all of these people and making friends at other universities that you didn't think you'd have, and seeing what they get up to on LinkedIn, and who knows, even those connections at other schools could help you out in some way in the future. Also, another really cool thing at hackathons is actually making something meaningful. A lot of the class projects that we're given, especially in the start of the curriculum, feel very bland and boring. At a hackathon, you get the chance to actually make something that you might actually use yourself, which at the end of the day gives a lot of confidence to a developer to actually make something meaningful. And it will change your outlook on development if this is your first time doing something like that, right? And last but not least, shamelessly, this is a resume piece. The project you make can totally go on your resume and take up space. All of the skills you learn can end up in your skills section. And more importantly, if you do win a prize, put that on your resume. That is good resume clout right there. So 100%, it's a resume piece. So there's one important thing that I forgot to list before, and it's something that we want to reiterate as a club and as officers, because at the end of the day, a lot of people go to these hackathons and kind of just sweat their way through it and just sit there and hack the entire time, neglect the workshops, neglect the career fair, neglect the socials, take it too seriously. So the last thing that we want to mention about why you should go to a hackathon is to have fun, right? We need the big bold, the huge text with the 3 exclamation points. Please find time to enjoy yourself at these events, right? The organizers at Shell and us here at Night Hacks, we have done tireless work to make sure that you all have a good time. So please, it is respectful to take a minute and enjoy it, right? Go out, go to those socials, go to those workshops, talk to people, engage with them, and have fun, okay? Because this isn't like a competitive programming competition. It is not a hostile environment where you're competing really against each other, even though on the books you kind of are. It is a place to enjoy and kind of meet other people and just immerse yourself in the community. So please, please, please do that. Have fun. So now we're going to kind of talk about like generally what to expect. There's a lot of different components that are consistent among hackathons. We're going to go over kind of like the really big overarching ones and talk about those a bit. All of these will be contained within Shell Hacks and Night Hacks. But keep in mind, if you do any travel hackathons, things can be slightly different, but most hackathons are relatively consistent. So the first thing that we want to go over is check-in, right? you will be checking in at the same time as a lot of other hackers. Night hacks, we're looking a little bit over 600 people. Shell hacks, I don't have exact numbers, but I can guarantee it's about double that, right? So there's going to be a lot of things going on at check-in. You are going to want to be conscious. Please arrive on time. You will need to receive a badge to get into both shell and night hacks, and you're going to need to be authorized, right? There are a lot of people who will try to get in that are not in. Please, please do not be that person. If you are not confirmed, don't plan on going, right? That is the same for both of our events. And I reiterate that as someone who's talking to the shell organizers, they don't want you there if you're not confirmed. It is not meant for you, okay? Another thing is you kind of want to get there early. It is really, really nice because you can get through check-in when the line's shorter, kind of get in and sort of just settle into the event while the chaos happens. Try not to be late. At the end of the day, both of our events have very strict late check-in policies that are not going to be fun if you do happen to be late. So try your best to be early. Try not to hold up the line. This is another big one that we want to reiterate. We've gone through our check-in process and whiteboarded it multiple times to limit this, but don't hold up the line. If you have to put a name on a badge, please do it off to the side. Do not do it in the line. We need to get people inside because at the end of the day, the line will go out of the building. I can't imagine it's going to be nice outside right after a hurricane. It's been not so nice lately. It'll be humid, right? And we don't want people sweaty coming into the event either, because then it's going to stink. Okay. It's going to be musty. We don't want that. So please try to get through the line as quickly as possible, right? Don't hold it up. Another thing is you will need an ID to get into the venue. We do need to verify that you are who you say you are, so you're not taking someone else's spot. So try to have some sort of personal identification with you, whether that be student ID, driver's license. Very rarely has someone brought a passport to ID at a hackathon, but just have that in mind. Do not leave the house and drive down to Miami without some sort of ID. You will be very, very upset, right? And then, yeah, late arrival depends on the basis of like what event. Again, that's you kind of have to check the hacker's guide for that. Next, we're going to talk about opening ceremony. Most events will have, again, an opening ceremony. This is a time to kind of give the necessary thanks, to talk about all of the different sponsors, the agenda for the night. But these should not be overlooked, right? As you can see at the bottom in bold, pay attention. Reason being is there is a lot of important announcements about the event logistics happening at opening ceremony that you need to pay attention, right? There's also another really valuable thing here, and that is information from sponsors. Sponsors can pay to get opening ceremony stage time, and usually that is when they will announce their challenge, right? Not all of them, but some will announce their challenge there. So it is important to kind of pay attention and have that extra, 30 minutes to kind of start thinking about creative ways that you want to start approaching your challenge and all of that. So opening ceremony is very important. And then, of course, at the very end, for those that have not met them yet or heard anything, the MLH Code of Conduct happens usually at the end of opening ceremony, and you're able to meet your MLHer, which is going to be another important contact that you're going to need to know the face of in case something happens, right? So opening ceremony, pay attention. It is a bit long at times, but there's valuable information in opening ceremony. As for the career fair, this varies based on the event. Some career fairs happen in the middle of night. Some of them happen Saturday morning. It really depends on the event. So please check whatever event matrix and scheduling platform that the venue is giving you. And so, yeah, prepare to wait in line for a while and prepare for a lot of talking, right? The career fairs do get very, very busy, especially with an event like Shell, who has a lot of sponsors. There will be a lot of tables and a lot of people waiting to talk to, right? So keep that in mind. If you're a person who struggles with large crowds, please be prepared for that. Maybe bring noise canceling headphones up until you're next in line, something like that. But it will be very crowded. It will be very noisy. Another question we get is professional attire necessary? No. This is probably the only time in your life where it is socially acceptable to talk to like a senior engineer in your pajamas, and they too will probably be in their pajamas, right? If not for some sort of company merch. They also do give out another thing that we didn't really add a slide for, but it's kind of wrapped into career fair, is leave room in your luggage to come back with stuff. At the career fair, a lot of these tables will just be giving out merch like it's candy. So be prepared for that as well. And then also, sort of more optional, most of which will have access to the resume database, but bring some paper resumes just in case. Can't hurt, right? The next thing is going to be the actual like process of hacking and making your project, right? So for all of the events, it will be a max of 4 people to a team. Do not try to do more than 4. It will be a disqualification. Same thing with creating code ahead of time. All of your code needs to be submitted via a GitHub repository, and the reason is because you can do a clean check of when the commit history is and all of that stuff, right? So don't be tempted. Do not even create the repository ahead of the starting of hacking. You need to do that after hacking starts. I would even wait that extra minute. If hacking starts at 11, make the repo at 11:01 because you don't want to have any trouble with your project submission. So do not do anything ahead of time. Even just creating the repo and adding people to it could be grounds for disqualification. So don't push it. You have 36 hours. It is not a sprint, it is a marathon, right? Hence the thon part in hackathon, okay? So don't do that, right? Use that time to come up with a project idea. Use that time to maybe make some sketches of the infrastructure, etc. Another thing you might want to do, I was supposed to add a slide for submission, but I don't think I had time and I forgot. You might want to familiarize yourself with a platform called DevPost ahead of time. DevPost is a partner of MLH, and a lot of hackathons use them. They are the sort of submission platform for projects at hackathons, and they have a lot of really good tools for organizers. So they're pretty standardized in terms of hackathons. I can go ahead and put a dev post link in general in the Discord server kind of after this meeting so you guys can go through dev posts and kind of see what they look like, right? Do not neglect your dev post because at the end of the day, when you're getting judged, not every single judge is going to be able to see your project. So when it's time to deliberate who won, one judge has to go to bat for you against the other judge if they think your project is better than whatever project went through the other room, right? And at the end of the day, what they show to the other judges is going to be your dev post because you could give an excellent presentation, have amazing slides, but when it comes to time to deliberate, they will have to show some sort of evidence to the other judges, and that evidence is your dev post. So again, make sure maybe look ahead, familiarize yourself with dev post, but make sure that you do not neglect that. Same thing with your presentation and judging. Do not neglect that. As for the side events, I kind of wanted to wrap this into its own little section. Side events in this context is going to include workshops and socials. They will be occurring quite often. You are not expected to go to all of them. If you went to all of them, you'd get nothing done. It is about having that important balance between the things, right? The workshops, they can be very, very helpful. A lot of the more beginner workshops or more like technical oriented workshops will be staggered towards the start of the event. Reason being, if you're about to start hacking, it's really important to learn those things before you start building something and need to undo things. So pay attention to those workshops, especially for all the hands that I saw first time hackers. A lot of them are very, very important and are very, very helpful. Learning different types of technologies that class, quite frankly, has not taught you yet. Software development practices, things like Git, right? Those things are very, very important for working on a team, especially for a software project. Another good thing, like I mentioned earlier, is going to be the social events. Uh, they're a lot of fun, especially a good way to recharge the brain. And like I said before, we have put so much time into making these events possible, even the social events. If no one were to show up for them, that would be a huge disrespect to the organizers. So please take some time. And like it says at the bottom, do not hack all event, right? It's 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 not very effective as well because you're going to have diminishing returns being up so late. After a while, you just need to take that break. Okay. As for sleeping, this is another one that we get a lot. Sleeping, you can sleep at the venue. There will not be beds and there will not be dorms. This is nothing fancy, right? But, you know, I would say if you have a sleeping bag, bring it. I ordered my first sleeping bag of my life for Shell Hacks last year, and it worked pretty all right. Maybe a blanket, maybe a pillow. Uh, if you're going to bring an air mattress, please listen to what the organizers tell you because there have been some events where people will throw their air mattress down in the middle of the walk space and make moving around the venue very like difficult and quite frankly unsafe. So please follow the organizer instructions on sleeping locations. I know at Night Hacks we have a sleep room that kind of makes things nice so that there's like a designated quiet space. And again, that's where you can kind of blow up all of your air mattresses and stuff like that. But yes, you can sleep at the venue. You do not need to make room accommodations in it. Quite frankly, if you haven't yet, it's probably too late, right? So yes, you can sleep at the venue. I need to pack my sleeping bag actually right after this meeting to get ready for tomorrow. So Some people don't even do that. Some people, I've seen 6 chairs get put like edge to edge to become a chair bed, and he was just sleeping there. It was great. Or under the tables, some of the tables have like a drape on it. It serves as an excellent curtain to hide out the light. You'll see some of the craziest sleeping conditions ever, but it's a lot of fun. I think it adds to the ambiance of the event. So yes, you can sleep there, and you do need to sleep. Please sleep, especially to all of the people driving. After 36 hours of programming, throwing in the opening ceremony and all of that stuff, driving home will be a little perilous, and you need to prioritize getting some sleep at the event, because at the end of the day, you have a 3.5 hour drive, a little bit more than that, back up here. You need to sleep. Okay, you need to be safe. You do need to sleep. So please plan on doing so. Do not take down 30 monsters over the weekend. Please get some sleep. If at all, Sunday, like Saturday night, Sunday morning, get some sleep because you will need to drive home. And it will be late when you're driving home. Closing ceremony ends around sunset in some cases. So please sleep. All right. Next up is judging. So obviously, after your project is submitted, you will need to be judged. Please put effort into your dev posts, as I wanted to reiterate that. But another thing is you are going to have to present, at least at Night Hacks. I'm not sure how Shell Hacks is doing judging this year, but you will need to give some sort of presentation to sort of vouch for your project, right? Whether that be a demo, whether that be slides, you should really put time into your judging, into your presentation, because at the end of the day, that's like 50% of the success of your project up on that leaderboard. Is it does come down to the judging a lot. You could have a really amazing project but articulate it very poorly, and at the end of the day that project won't do very well, right? Also, put a little bit of practice beforehand. It is very obvious when you are all on not on the same page, even if it's just 30 minutes. Please practice a little bit. Allocate that time to get ready for judging. Do not neglect the presentation, right? And again, your judging can be a live demo. Please open up the organizer's guide and see if there's any sort, or hacker's guide, sorry. See if there's any sort of documentation on how long judging is actually going to be, to kind of gauge how long your presentation should be, right? As for closing ceremony is pretty straightforward. It's a little more low key than opening ceremony. The biggest thing is it's where winners are announced. There's a lot of good photo ops here, lots of clapping going on, very lively and exciting event. Kind of just hearing from everyone and how the event went. And of course, pay attention to closing ceremony and give your best applause, right? It is going to be a long weekend for the organizers, right? I'm quite frankly terrified, okay? I know Shell is too. Please do everything you can to show them as much appreciation as humanly possible. They deserve it, because at the end of the day, it is a lot of work to put one of these together. So closing ceremony is the perfect time to show your appreciation. Maybe afterwards, as everyone's leaving, if they're not busy, thank them. Literally walk up and thank the organizers, because you will know who they are. They are going to introduce themselves. They will have some way to identify themselves. So at the end of the event, please, please, please show your appreciation. I know it will go a long way for them. All right. Now we're kind of approaching the sort of end of the presentation. We just kind of want to go over a little bit of tips on success at hackathons. And because it's so open-ended, it only boils down so much, right? You kind of want to have a plan generally, as per like how your team is going to split up work at the start. Maybe the type of like some diagramming at the start is really, really important. Just have a general plan of what your project's going to be. Spend the first hour, even two, just working on an idea rather than jumping straight in, right? Planning is going to be very, very helpful for you if you're trying to win at the hackathon, and stuff like that. Another thing is, I know it's tomorrow. I would recommend building a team ahead of time. We did have some team building socials, but not many people showed up. So I'm assuming that a lot of you already have teams. It is going to be very helpful to try to like match people with what skills they have and what the type of project idea you want is. Another thing that's really, really good is thinking of a project idea, not working on it too much, and not getting too committed, because at the end of the day, you want to be ready to pivot. Some of the challenges that the sponsors put out, you may just have a crazy strike of inspiration of a really, really unique way to approach the problem. And you should absolutely jump and pivot at that opportunity, because winning those sponsor challenges can be very, very valuable to you and your team, right? So again, think of a project ahead of time. It's not the worst thing to do, but be ready to pivot. Because at the end of the day, the unique and creative angle and idea will probably win against a boring but well put together idea. Your implementation does matter, absolutely. But if the passion and the spirit and the pitch is there in the judging room, and there's a few bugs here and there is probably a better chance of success than a very cookie cutter, boring but functional app, right? So again, be ready to pivot on those sponsor challenges. Don't think too much about it ahead of time. And of course, sleep, eat, and drink water. Notice how I say water. There will be so much soda and so much energy drinks at the events. Please, please do not let that be the only thing you drink. You will feel it. You absolutely will feel it, right? Make sure that you eat, make sure that you sleep. You need to take care of yourself. I know that it's a long event and that it's very easy to get caught up in what you're doing, but please take care of yourself. I say this as an organizer of an event next weekend. From Sunday, the end of Shell, to Friday, the start of Night Hacks, there is only 4 days between. You need to take care of yourself if you plan on going to both, because I would hate to see everyone drop from getting the Shell Hacks ick, okay? Because you get sick after a hackathon. You feel it. Another thing that I should have added as a bullet point, if you have time tonight, and if CVS is open, which I think it is because this storm is quite mild, please go get some sort of immune vitamins or something, right? You want to prepare yourself for a little bit of sickness from this event, just because that's natural, right? Especially with Night Hacks being so close, I really, really, really would recommend, if you want to take full advantage of both, prioritize your health, get yourself those immune vitamins, get ready for the the ickness, right there, the illness. Um, what to bring? This is another thing that we get a lot. Obviously, the Hacker's Guide is going to be your best source of truth, but these are some general things that you want to bring. You're going to absolutely want to bring hygiene products. Please, please, please do not neglect your hygiene. Hackathons can stink bad, very bad stink. Please do not contribute to that, okay? Bring deodorant, bring stuff to brush your teeth, right? It may even be in one of those school bathroom sinks if they don't have a designated. It doesn't matter. You want to brush your teeth, okay? You want to bring deodorant. And if you're going to take advantage of the showers, which please, please do, especially at Shell, I know at UCF a lot of you may be close on campus and can use your own shower. Please, please, please shower, okay? Bring stuff for that. Bring just some shampoo. They could be small size travel bottles to not take up so much room, but please, please keep your hygiene in check, okay? You're also going to feel it too. When you get nasty and icky and dirty, you will feel gross and your work will go down because of it. So it is worth it to go take a shower. And then laptop, phone, both of which with chargers, your battery is not going to last all event unless you have some crazy like MacBook battery and like an amp or something, like some crazy stuff, right? Another thing that some people forget, this is a weekend long event. If you have medications that you need to consistently take, please bring those medications, right? We don't want any health risks at the event. I know we don't. I know the Shell orgs don't. Please bring your medications. Do not forget those. And on top of that, bring those immune vitamins. Please bring those immune vitamins. And then, of course, you're going to want to bring all the stuff that you want to sleep with. You could be a goblin and bring nothing and just sleep upside down on the wall, or you could be smart and bring like a sleeping bag, maybe a pillow, maybe a small blanket, maybe an entire air mattress. People do it. I personally don't feel like lugging all of that around because you will be moving around a lot. But yeah, so bring your sleeping stuff. And then, of course, same as the ones above that. It is a weekend long event. Bring changes of clothes. You're not going to want to be in the same clothes all weekend. Me personally, I'm bringing 3 Night Hacks shirts so I can, show up for our little Night Hacks community here. If y'all show up in the Night Hack shirt, kudos to you. If not, bring whatever you want to stay comfy because we will be doing a lot of work this weekend to make those fun projects. And then for FAQs, I was going to compile a list of FAQs, but at the end of the day, most of your answers will be answered in the Hacker's Guide. There was a huge bit last year about if anyone asked a question in general, immediately someone would reply, check the Hacker's Guide. It was almost snarky, and it reminds you a lot of the Linux community with the whole reading the manual thing, but it really is check the Hacker Guide, right? If you have a question, look in the Hacker's Guide. Ours is still a work in progress, so maybe don't check ours just yet. We will have a change log saying when it's all updated, but I know Shells is basically finalized at this point because their event's tomorrow, right? So please, please, please check the Hacker's Guide. That being said, we sort of neared the end of the presentation, but just in case you had any questions that you really, really, really wanted answered right now, I'm going to go ahead and open everything up for questioning. You cannot unmute yourself, but if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll give a few minutes there. And then if all is well, we'll go ahead and kind of wrap up. Keeping an eye out on the chat. Can we expect there to be enough outlets for everyone? Yes, with some exceptions. Depending on the area you're in, there are almost like designated workspaces, and those, of course, will be prioritized to be as accessible as possible in terms of outlets. If you're going kind of like in the middle of nowhere, don't expect there to be like, a super good accessible stuff like that, right? Parrot's asking me what's my favorite thing to snack on while at a hackathon. Uh, Whatever they have there, I eat whatever. Anything else? I see a question here about too late to confirm for night hacks, confirm attendance. Unfortunately, it is too late. We are filled up. We will have a sort of waitlist policy to be announced later, specifically only for UCF students, just because it will be very last minute. We don't want to encourage anyone from out of state to come in and be on the waitlist. How good should I be at coding to be successful at the projects? That is variable. I know that there are a few of us in the executive board and in the directors right now who went to our first hackathon in like the COP 2500 course with Python. There are a lot of really approachable technologies. There really isn't a big bar, right? Go to those workshops and they will be very comprehensive in teaching you different technologies. So the answer is it really depends on the project you're making as well. Any tips on how we should approach conversations with sponsors? Brunix, you mind tapping in on this one? I feel like you've got a little more to say than I do. I'm not sure if you can if you can unmute right now. If not, I'll try my best to answer that.
Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So yeah, for approaching sponsors, it's really all about one being approachable, and you always got to treat when you're speaking to another person, not trying to get something out of them. They're human beings just like you, so you realistically shouldn't be yapping on what job. Like, don't get me wrong, talk about what job opportunities they have, what interesting stuff at the companies, but don't be like, "Can you get me an interview? Like, can you get me hired?" Like those type of things come with the process, and it's guaranteed company they can't you on the spot unless they say so. So for the most part, treat them like human beings, and you will be successful. At least you try to uh, just get some type of input out of it. And if you are able to get a genuine connection with somebody, it will go far. So yeah,
I know if Yusuf here, he could say a whole lot. I know a lot of his conversations with recruiters have been absolutely nothing about like the actual job, and he'll just talk about like nonsense for a long time. But I mean, it works, right? Being approachable, but also being remembered or like memorable is really important as well. Um, Coming from someone with little knowledge and no exposure, what can I do to prepare for night hacks? We did do a workshop series at the start of the semester. We called it our pre-hack series, where we went over different technologies that are approachable. I would check out our YouTube channel. This GBM will also be posted there, but I would try to find some sort of technology and try to learn it in the next week. I know that that's kind of hard to do and it's very short notice, but we've had some people cram like T3 in the last week and a half, and the progress they've made is crazy. Some of our mentees, I don't know if they're in here, but you can definitely go ahead and find sort of a technology and approach it, right? And try your best to like learn it a little. Don't try to learn a programming language, right? I know class kind of makes it feel like that's the only thing you can do. Try to learn some sort of framework, specifically a GUI framework or a web framework, because that's how you can make a real project, right? Not something that's in your command line. From Alex, what should I do to find a team for the event? Should I post in the Night Hacks Discord server in the general server? You totally can. We will have team building events within like the actual event, but you could try to do some find a team in general. For Shell Hacks tomorrow, we do have a Shell Hacks channel. If you go ahead in the channels and roles and opt into it by giving yourself the Shell Hacks role, but yeah, uh, let's see what else is going on. So challenges are announced at the event, but if my team practices teamwork with a mock project and it ends up being exactly what a challenge wants, is it fine to code at the event with that practice in mind? Also, are we allowed to look up stuff during the event or not? I see what Caleb is saying. This is definitely a fine line. I believe it's fine if you're referencing previous projects, but during the event, please do not write any code. Okay, that about
yeah,
answered the question.
yeah. I would also just like the general spirit is that anything you look up or do that's self-referential should at least be original enough that it's not like you're copying and pasting old posts. That's against the spirit. What is for the spirit, of course, is like if you're using like, let's be honest here, most hackathons are perfectly fine with you using like ChatGPT or looking up stuff. That's just the way you hack stuff together. So yeah.
All right, for the next question, we've got where are we staying overnight? This really depends on the venue. More will probably, not probably, definitely will be released by Shell tomorrow. It might already be released in the Hacker's Guide. Quite frankly, I haven't read it yet, which is quite ironic as an organizer myself. I should have read that like the second it was posted, but we will. We'll get that all. You'll figure that out from the Hacker's Guide, and they probably will make announcements during like opening ceremony or over whatever communication system they have. I would recommend for both of our events being very, very in touch with the Discord, right? That's probably going to be the main form of communication for Shell as well. So have your notifications on for the duration of the event and bookmark the Hacker's Guide, right? Save it in some way, shape, or form because you're going to be looking at that thing all the time. All right. Any other questions? I'm still got chat open. What's the best way to take advantage of my first hackathon as a beginner programmer? So that's a bit of a loaded question, but honestly, I would say a lot of the workshops are going to be very beneficial to you if you're a beginner. I would try to make sort of a smaller expectation in terms of a project and make more time to go to those workshops, right? So like do something manageable. Don't try to be like, I mean, of course, if you're ambitious and have a really like ambitious team, you can go for something crazy. But for my first project at Shell Hacks last year, my like scope wasn't all that large. I let myself take time to go to those workshops and do all of that networking and quite frankly walking up to the table next to me and going, hey, what are you doing, and just learning from other people there, right? Because like I remember Shell Hacks last year, I met so many people because they'll just walk up to you and be like, hey, do you know Python? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he brings you over and then shows you a bug and you're like, oh, that's just this. And it's like, oh, great. And then when you have a bug, you go walk to your neighbor and ask them. And the same thing happened in Night Hacks last year. It's a lot of fun. Please talk to the people, right? And Caleb says network and meet people. You'll likely meet people who have interned at companies you might be interested at. That is also a really good point. If you are a beginner, try to keep the scope of your project reasonable so that you can take advantage of all of those other things.
Yeah, I
Uh,
also have one more point I want to mention, which is um, if you don't succeed at making your project, that's fine. If you don't submit your project, that's also fine. Because here's the thing about your first time hacker status only really kind of kind of applies to when you submit your project. This is a little sneaky, but if you don't submit a project as a hackathon, it's almost like you weren't even there. They can't really track it. So essentially, you still have your first time hacker status for another hackathon. So like, if you don't submit a project for Shell Hacks, well then, um, us at Night Hacks won't know, and that's technically your first hackathon since you won't have the dev post history because you never submitted a project to the hackathon. So that's just to give you a little bit of like, there are other things to do that you can also just try to maximize your ability to submit. So you can make the most out of it even if you don't succeed at first. So yeah.
all right. As the next thing, as a UCF student who applied on the 11th of this month who might be waitlisted, how will I gain entry to the event if I'm accepted? If someone is brought off waitlist, we're still sort of workshopping this and haven't really talked about it too much, but odds are you will receive some sort of notification the day of the event during around 4 p.m. But again, don't quote me on that. We're still kind of workshopping that. As of right now, it seems the odds of getting in on waitlist are going to be pretty substantially low. So do not get your hopes up, but you will get some sort of notification or email. And it might even be beneficial to just like chill outside of engineering for a little bit in case, I mean, something happens, right? But I wouldn't bank on it, right? The next question: do the team building exercises introduce you to people to be on a team day of, or should I join a team by tonight? So, like, you can. There are team building events day of, right before hacking starts, and you can totally go to those. You're attending Shell Hacks, yeah. So they also have one of those as well. I would try your best to make a team naturally, though, kind of like on here, because sometimes those teams that like are made last minute can be a little like shaky. What I mean is that like you'll join a team simply because you don't have one and your skills misalign or you have very different ideas of what you want to make on a project. So again, we have a Shell Hacks channel in the main Discord server. If you go ahead to the top and go to channels and roles, and then give yourself the Shell Hacks 24 answer on what hackathons are you attending this year, it will unlock a Shell Hacks channel so that you can go ahead and try meeting people in the Discord. for Shell Hacks tomorrow. I see that there was another thing. This is my current case for night hacks. Wondering if I'll be expected to drive to Miami to take up the offer the day of the event. Do you mean Shell Hacks? Not case for night hacks? Because if you're a UCF student on waitlist for night hacks, you should be able to be on standby pretty comfortably at UCF. If you're waitlisted for Shell, don't drive down to Miami expecting to get in. Don't waste your time like that. For sure, don't do that. Any other questions? Give it 5 more minutes to get some more one. Where is night hacks happening physically? Like what building? As for night hacks, we will have the engineering buildings and business buildings for the duration of the event. Check-in is going to happen in the engineering atrium, which is where all those whiteboard tables are. And we will also partially be in the student union for both opening and closing ceremony. But all of the workshops, socials, hackathons, hackathon stuff, etc., will be within the business and engineering buildings. But check-in will be at engineering. Do you have any recommendations for being competitive at the career fair, especially for freshmen? I'd say just being approachable. Again, kind of what Brunick said before, just having that general like conversationalist approach to it. I'm sure Brunick could again add more, but it is vastly similar to what was mentioned earlier in terms of talking at the career fair. Any other questions? And again, this will be posted. If anyone joined late or if anyone kind of didn't hear a question being answered, was like preoccupied, you can kind of scroll back through this and listen again at another time. And I am confirming that this is actually being recorded. Any other questions? Let's see. I registered for night hacks like 5 days ago. Can I still look forward in the wait list or no? You will be waitlisted, but don't get your hopes up. The wait list is like quite long right now. Quite frankly, I think it's at about 300 people long. And if you applied 5 days ago, that I would not be hopeful personally. Anything else? I'll give it till 5:50 and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So that's 3 more minutes for questioning, unless there's just a ton of questions coming in all at once. I could stay longer, but all right, I'll take it that that's no more questions. Thank you so much, Part. All right, so I see y'all leaving. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording here and put up the QR for your points in just a second. I got to go ahead and end the recording now. But before I do, thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all being here despite this, the storm and still showing up virtually. We had like a total of 70 people tonight, so that's a really good virtual turnout. Thank you all for coming, and looking forward to seeing you at Shell or Night Hacks or both.